Good day to all. Thank you for tuning in to the Uvisualeyes Show, where you will experience the top, most powerful, insightful, and talented teachers, speakers, and writers on inner wisdom, personal evolution, and love. This is your host and life transformation coach, Michelle Kraft. Welcome. If you missed the last show, The Path to Manifesting, featuring me, you will find the show in the archives and can listen at your leisure. On Thursday, May 5th at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time, New York Times best-selling health and wellness author and master healer Deborah Keene will be on the Uvisualeyes Show, talking about her new book, Be Your Own Shaman, Heal Yourself and Others with 21st Century Energy Medicine. This book takes you on a one-of-a-kind journey into the powerful, esoteric world of healing. In addition, on May 10th, tune in for the second half of the interesting interview with the delightful Dr. Wolf, talking about his latest amazing book, Time Loops and Space Twists, How God Created the Universe. The Uvisualeyes Show is becoming a more exciting experience every week. Every time I turn around, there's yet another amazing healer, teacher, or shaman as my guest here, sharing their amazing insights. And now, as we started just a few weeks ago, broadcasting from Paris, France, it's becoming a much more stimulating and provocative experience. And today is no different. For the last few weeks, you have been hearing me talk about it on the Uvisualeyes Show. You have been reading about it on my blog, Facebook, and Twitter, the inspirational and prominent book, The Map, Finding the Magic and Meaning in the Story of Your Life. My colleague Colette Baron-Reid reveals this truly brilliant approach to creating the life of your dreams. Drawing from her years of expertise as one of the world's most acclaimed intuitive counselors, Colette shows you how to use the magic of the metaphors and gift of imagination to delve into the most profound aspects of your subconscious, the places within you that light the way to lasting change. With Colette's book, The Map, that just hit the shelves last week, you'll harness your power to live your greatest destiny today. Yes, today. I'm very excited and pleased to say we have Colette Baron-Reid. Welcome to the Uvisualeyes Show, Colette.
Oh, thank you. I had such a time getting through. Okay, that's good so far. Right, good. Okay, let's get back to our listeners.
Right. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties do happen.
Yes.
So I think that's better. All right.
Okay,
and
great.
So you were putting your hands on her.
Okay, yeah. So I put my hands on this woman. I knew the name of her stepfather. He had abused her when she was 8, and but I really got that she had carried all this tension in that part of her body, and so that was the first real, I think, time where this person jumps off the table and completely freaked out, and literally, I'm not kidding you, but really quickly, people stopped coming to me for massages, and they just wanted to talk to me. So, and I got them to smell aromatherapy oils. I developed this whole system where if you said yes, no, maybe, you didn't like it, you liked it, just according to how you responded to the oils, I was able to tell a whole story. So I actually created my own divination system based on aromatherapy oils. And very quickly people came for readings, and I was kind of curious about it because I was and I'd meditated like 90 minutes a day. I was really doing a lot of intuitive development work anyway, and I was sober at that time. I think it was 2 years. I was 2 years sober, and it was just rapid. And so for the first 6 years, I did readings, and that's how I began to make my living. And massage kind of died off, and just people kept coming for readings. And I remember I used to tell people, I don't really do this. I'm really a singer. Right? Don't come back next year. That's not what I do, And I had such a chip on my shoulder. Oh, my God. I came from a well-to-do family, and my parents were academics, and, you just, I'm not you don't be a psychic at your house. You don't, so I never said the word, and right? So, meanwhile, of course, that's what I am. But even to 22 years, it took me to say, it's okay, I'm a psychic. But anyhow, so... Yeah, and I'm really skeptical, too, so I was fascinated by this whole thing and fascinated that I could do it and fascinated that people thought that I was connecting to their relatives who'd passed. That took me a long time before I could really say 100% sure that I knew that it wasn't just that I was really, really good as an intuitive. But but that it was real, that mediumship was really real. So again, like I said, I'm very skeptical, but the fact that it was so overtly true and I was very accurate, that I began to take, obviously, note. And when the first person called me from India, and the phone rang, I'll never forget, it was 6 years, I want to make an appointment. Right? And I'm like, I'm like, where are you calling me from? I'm calling from Delhi. Right? So it's like, well, how did you hear about me? On an airplane. It was so interesting. Right? So
I love it.
And so, so that was bizarre, and I was like, oh, my God, somebody called me from India. And then I'd read this woman who worked for a Japanese magazine, and one day I read these two women showed up at my door without any interpreters. I had no idea they didn't speak English. So they came in, I'm like, oh, crap, what am I going to do? And I'm trying to talk to them. They don't speak a word. They're just bowing, and I'm bowing, and they're bowing. I'm bowing some more. And they sit down, and I sit down, and I just figure, fuck it. Oh, oops. I'm so sorry. I said a bad word.
It's all right. I love it.
It's internet radio. Anyway, so I just was like, whatever. And I just did that, and they taped it, and the next thing you know, I ended up with busloads of Japanese tourists, and I had to somebody wrote about it in this magazine, and these people called, and I would like to bring a bus of people, and I'm like, what? So it was so interesting, and apparently, like, the interpreter that actually did do the readings told them how accurate it was, because I couldn't get an answer from them. I couldn't say, does this make sense to you, which is how I work. I always get feedback from the person saying, anyway. So, So I'm going to just fast forward. So I did end up doing, getting a record deal when I was 42. I had 2 albums on the EMI music label, so I've gotten all the dreams. But in the interim, of course, for 22 years, this is what I have done full time as an intuitive counselor. I was curious enough to, over the years, to really, really want to understand human nature more since I was dealing with people's lives. So I studied Jungian psychology, and I've taken, many, many different forms, transpersonal psychology. I've done spiritual healing. I've done all kinds of different things along the way to study and understand how people operate and, the soul's journey and what it actually means to all of us. So the book today, the book that I've just released, The Map, is a culmination of those 22 years of experience and having observed the lives of over 33,000 people individually, as well as having toured for 2.5 years in front of 110 cities, also over in Europe. And so I'd say in front of about 250,000 people. And what I came to the conclusion was, over the years, is that, first of all, human nature is basically the same. We all want the same things. We are all looking at the same thing. In our lives, we experience universal archetypal experiences from birth to death, which is what the tarot says. It's showing the potential experiences, what the I Ching is. And I started thinking about this and what that would mean. Like, since I'm reading people, we do call them readings. We call them psychic readings or intuitive counseling readings. It's like I'm reading stories. I'm reading the story of their lives, these people, and I'm showing them the journey of where they've been, where they are now, and where they're going. So this idea of map making or cartography has been with me for many years. And so when it came time to write this book, which took me 3 years, by the way, and I rewrote it twice, one big rerun. Oh, no, it was called to have something else altogether. I wanted to write it about the quest and the quest of the human being through life to death and then beyond, about, our evolution, and to show that we experience many things the same, that we aren't segregated into these awful moments or great moments, that it's all a story of continuity. And so I was greatly influenced by a number of people. One of them was obviously Carl Jung, because I'm a big divination person. I love to create oracle systems, which I have a new one coming out also on the map. I just love to create my own because I know they work and I'm really good at it. And I'm curious about symbols. No, symbols are my thing, right? So the idea of that subconscious speaks in symbols and pictures, doesn't speak English or French, right? It speaks imagery. It's that's poetry. That's why poetry can affect us so greatly, because it's what we don't say, the obtuse, the covert, these things, the imagery that's evocative and speaks to so many different layers that language is so limited by. So I had done 12 years of Jungian analysis over the years, so I was really, really interested in dreamscapes, et cetera. And I came across a whole paper on something called active dreaming, which is being able to coax the subconscious to speak to you using a series of metaphors and pictures. So I thought, wouldn't that be interesting to create? But what would I create it on? And I had been very interested in the Joseph Campbell work, The Hero's Journey, and everybody's written about that, by the way. It's like there's Carolyn Mace's work and Debbie Ford. But what's been interesting is everybody has written about the personas. You know, like I'm a warrior, I have a sacred contract with the scapegoat, et cetera, right? So I asked a question. I said, well, if the hero has 1,000 faces and he's on a journey or a quest to have it all, which is what we are, wouldn't he have to go through 1,000 places too? Could we not take our viewpoint away from the mirror of looking at ourselves and into these archetypal landscapes, universal places that we all know of that we could describe, and could they be the environment that we travel through? And that could I switch it up and do that? No one's ever written about this. Nobody, nowhere. The new books on psycho-ecology and spiritual ecology or eco-spirituality or all these new things that bring in the concept of nature as part of our spirituality and the fact that we live within it, et cetera. I mean, there's the idea that we have to bring in nature and the earth into our psyche or our consciousness again. So I thought, well, wouldn't this be an interesting way of doing that without really doing that? So I tested it and I said, well, where do we really live? And as I love the word environment, and I got that actually from Bruce Lipton because he talks about the am I talking too much?
No, it's all right. I just want to say I love the title of the book, especially, and this is probably different, Finding the Magic and Meaning in the Story of Your Life. I have much more interest in that illustration of your book because I believe that all of us hope that our lives have much more magic and meaning than quite often appears to be so on the surface, right?
And that's the point of the book, is to show the people. I was just kind of giving you the construct of how it was written, but yes, I mean, that's the point of it, is to describe your life as a series of landscapes, time frames, and voices that you engage, and therefore making greater meaning by reintroducing, rethinking it, by seeing it in a different perspective in this magical kind of universe that you really create yourself using this book. But really, you do find deeper meaning in things that you thought were dead or failed or whatever. If you can use the concepts that I've created in the book, based on all those things that I went on and on over, you can find that. You can rediscover the magic because we have lost it by the fact that we become so cynical and we become so, our noses are so pressed against mirrors that we can't see past the end of our nose. We don't know that the world isn't suction cupped onto our faces the way many of us think. That in fact the story of our lives come alive when we use these magical archetypes. They do.
So I'm very curious. My curiosity is piqued. You write about different imagery beings like the gentle gardener and the trickster goblin. What is their meaning and purpose in your book as you use them?
Okay, so there's 3 sections in the book. The first one is where are you, like the where you travel, when are you, which relates to time, and then the voices you listen to. And the two, well, there's 3 characters, or well, actually there's more than 3, there's 4 or 5, I think, but the main ones, the goblin is probably the one I'm most known for. And the concept of a goblin and its relative, the gnome, actually was coined in 16th century Switzerland by an alchemist. And the goblin is a deformed gnome. The gnome is supposed to is an image of a symbol that is to protect what is unformed under the ground. That's why you see garden gnomes everywhere, because what is unformed and yet brought to life under the ground. I didn't know this until I did all the research.
I didn't know this either.
I know, isn't that cool? That's why you see those stupid little gnomes.
It's quite cool.
Isn't that neat? Because they're supposed to protect the seeds under the ground. So, and the goblin is the homeless, the mischievous, the shadow of the gnome, and the goblin has no home, and it protects what is deformed. And so I cat the goblin out of the fairy tale Rumpelstiltskin, which basically, in essence, the story, because all fairy tales and folk tales have greater messages, and that this fairy tale says if you don't name your goblin, your firstborn will belong to him. And that's the gist of the fairy tale, because the miller's daughter spun gold, right? Gold out of flax, and then he said, I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to grant you 3 wishes, and when you marry the king, because of me, and if you can't name me, I will take your firstborn, right? So that's really the truth. If we don't name our goblins, our firstborn will belong to them. Everything that we do, everything that we create is affected somehow or influenced by this shadow. Now, again, everybody else has talked about the shadow. It's not new, but I've created a character that I say is the embodiment and the voice of our inner wounding, and that if we can engage that voice, we can and learn to love it and cooperate with it, because it's not going to go away. No, you can't kill your shadow. It's there, so you can't create energy or destroy it, but you can transform it. And so that's the point, is that once you learn that you have this energy, it frees you up. Once you name it, you can claim it, and then it becomes something that's useful. You can give it a new job. It's true. I have these outrageous exercises that I do in my intensives where I get people to tell to get their goblins to do something else, and they have letters. The parts of themselves write letters to each other, and it's amazing how the psyche will do it. You can't make this up. It just happens. You just put pen to paper, and boof, out comes the letter from the part of you that is wounded. It's interesting.
Well, it's really amazing, because I've been asking myself these 3 questions all week. Where are you? When are you? And who are you listening to? And the one that really caught me mostly off guard was, who am I listening to? Mm-hmm. And who am I listening to are many people, the voices of the past, family members, society that tells me what's right, wrong, good or bad, what I should do, what's okay to do. And it's very interesting, because you say that asking these 3 questions will change everything. Would you tell us more about how that works?